Hello. Thanks for clicking through the link. I know that this prong collar imminent ban in Queensland is kind of a hot topic. And it doesn't matter to me whether you're like pro prong collar or anti prong collar or anywhere in between. Please listen all the way through because what's happening in Queensland is kind of a problem for animal welfare in general, no matter how you feel about the prong collar. So my name's Pat Stewart, for people who don't know me. I'm a professional dog trainer, have been for sort of 6 or 7 years. Prior to that, when dog training was a hobby and a passion of mine, I was in the army. As a dog trainer, I'm somewhat of a generalist. I work in the space of everything from special forces, military working dogs, police dogs. I've trained some assistance dogs. I deal heavily in the sport dog community, people who train their dog as a hobby to compete in things. I have done heaps of in-home behavior modification, dealing with, problem behaviors, aggressive dogs, that kind of stuff. I even have trained, people's family pets to do tricks at parties. So I'm across a fairly wide range of the industry. I'm a member of the International Association of Canine Professionals. I've volunteered my time to the legislative committee within that organisation for a couple of years. And at the moment, I'm on the marketing committee. In 2019, I was given the President's Award of the IACP for my contributions to the industry. So the reason I bother explaining all of that to you, who I am, is because I want you to understand that animal welfare is at the core of a lot of what I do. I've devoted much of my adult life to, bettering the lives of dogs and the people who train them. Okay, so what's actually happened? There's an imminent prong collar ban that suddenly popped up today, being the 8th of May, 2022. And that came out via a media release by the Queensland government, and came to people's attention via Facebook, Twitter, social media posts by the Queensland Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk, and it was saying that prong collars is going to be banned. So let me refer to some notes. Let's walk back through time just a little bit here. And so in 2021, in April 2021, there was a proposal via a discussion paper to amend the Animal Care and Protection Act in Queensland. And the way that works is feedback is requested to be lodged. It was requested to be lodged by Friday, 21st of May, 2021, on the proposed changes to the Act. Now, I read that, and at the time, I didn't make any submission. I didn't propose any changes to the Act because the only parts of it that related to dog training were this. There was a proposal to legislate dog fighting, coursing, certain types of hunting, and events that cause an animal pain as a prohibited event. Requirement for only veterinary surgeons to perform ear cropping, tail docking, and debarking if deemed necessary. And impose an offence for the use of a dog to knowingly kill or injure another animal. Imposing an offence for not exercising a dog that has been closely confined for more than 24 hours. Imposing a specific offence for having an unrestricted dog in an open vehicle tray or trailer, etc. And various amendments to inspector powers under the Act in relation to dogs. So I read that. I didn't make any sort of proposal because I didn't feel compelled to change any of it, right? And those submissions ended, like I say, on Friday, 21st of May, 2021. Then suddenly, today, a media release comes out. And let me put that up on the screen here for you. A media release comes out. And you can read that here. You can pause the video and you can read it. But what is especially interesting is that it says prong collars and other humane practices would be banned as part of the biggest reform to animal welfare laws in Queensland in more than 20 years. And if you see down here, it says the community said to us overwhelmingly inhumane practices like the use of the prong collars have to stop. Now, if you can't read that on the screen, I'm going to put a link to it in the description. You can go and read it for yourself. The issue is they're saying that there was overwhelming demand to ban the use of the prong collar, but that was not part of the proposal of the proposed changes to the Act. And so for people who follow legislative process correctly, there was no reason anybody would say anything about the prong collar in that submission. So in the dog training community as a whole industry stakeholders, industry leaders, the people who actually use prong collars, especially those within the Queensland government, like the police, like the corrections, were never given any opportunity to discuss pros and cons of the likely implications of a ban on prong collars. Now, I'll just remind you that as part of the things that were open for discussion were things like dogfighting. You could write in and say why you thought dogfighting could be allowed, but you were never given the opportunity to discuss anything about the prong collar. And that suddenly came out via a media release today on the 8th of May, and that's going to go before Queensland Parliament this week. That is suspect to me. That is suspicious, and it reeks that there's some backroom deal going on between some issue-motivated group and the Queensland government that's allowing this to be suddenly slipped into the Act without any consultation. Now, why that is, I would guess that it's, a leverage point moving forward between some, potential government department, some other party, this is going to help the Queensland government election going forward, or it's pressure from an issue-motivated group, considering that there was a petition for banning the use of prong collars getting around that I think had about 1,000 signatures on it, right? But the fact is that it was not tabled as part of the discussion paper in the proposed changes of the Act. And that's the process that it's meant to go through. People are meant to have their say, industry stakeholders, industry experts, and random people are meant to have their say about the way that laws will be formed. And especially when it is in regards to animal welfare, they're meant to, consult with people who are experts in animal welfare, because the issue is, as we know, very often the things that Joe Public thinks is obvious animal welfare is sometimes not, because they don't understand animals. They're not experts in that space. And they rely on groups like the International Association of Canine Professionals, on government departments like the police who use these tools, like the people they would call into their home when they have a problem with a dog to give that guidance. And that never happened. There was no consultation with the people that this will affect the most, which is not how legislative best practice should happen. Okay, so what's going to happen from here? Well, this week it's going to go before the Queensland Parliament and likely pass, and there's nothing we can do about that. And what I've been seeing all over Facebook, and I've been guilty of this today as well until I did some research and figured out what actually we should do, is a lot of dog trainers jumping up and down about this from all over the country and in fact all over the world, because we're smart. We know that this will have flow-on effects. So even for me here in New South Wales, this doesn't affect directly, but it will affect, no doubt, indirectly, because it will be used as a leverage point to further ban prong collars in New South Wales. Now, like I say, it's not really an issue of banning prong collars. It's an issue of following legislative process, and especially in animal welfare, that has to be done correctly. We have evidence of this in the past. Like, you might be a person watching this really happy that prong collars are getting banned, but you might also recall that breed-specific legislation has been brought in parts of Australia with no community consultation, no evidence that it would work, and in fact, it turned out that it actually diminished the welfare of many animals and didn't have anywhere near the effect of what they wanted. In fact, it had the opposite effect. Allowing the same to happen again with a prong collar further opens the door of people's strong emotions on what seems like an obvious topic. Like, I get it, a prong collar is solicits a lot of emotions, and to people who don't understand how to use it, I can see why people would want it banned. But we have not investigated what would actually happen with that, and by allowing it to happen with the prong collar, then it opens the door for it to happen with other parts of our industry. No community consultation. Now, it doesn't matter what part of the industry you're in. If you do anything with a dog, I can find 1,000 people that will sign a petition to have that made illegal. People don't understand what we do. The other part is the issue-motivated groups who are likely pushing this, their end game is potentially the ending of pet ownership altogether. So this is a bigger problem, and even if you want prong collars banned, you should want prong collars banned through the correct legal process. You should want it done in a way where we do investigate and we see the the shortcomings, the problems, the issues of it all, and that decision is made considering the balance of evidence, not some sneaky deal that doesn't actually check whether this is going to have a positive effect on animal welfare. So what can we do? Like I said, this goes to this parliamentary committee. It's going to go through Parliament this week, and then it goes to a parliamentary committee, and it sits with them, and they do a further investigation, and that is our only opportunity to have our say about this prong collar piece. But I'm pretty certain that at that point, it's too late to be talking about good versus bad prong collar, why we should keep it, why we shouldn't. That ship has sailed. We never got to do that. At this point, all we can talk about is that we never got to do that. Is that the legislative process, the industry best practice for bringing in laws, amending acts, making things illegal, trying to improve animal welfare has not actually been followed. So I'm calling on everybody that watches this, even if you want the prong collar banned, you should want it banned correctly. Please make a submission to that parliamentary committee when it's formed this week. The details on how to do that, there's like a fact sheet that will explain how to do that. I'm going to put that in the description below, as well as the contact information, the people you should send that to when you do. But I urge you, when you do make that, be professional in the way that you do it, and don't plead the case for prong collars themselves. Plead the case for the correct due process to be followed. Industry consultation with the people that this affects the most, because the people who it affects are the people who currently use prong collars, and they are the people who have not been consulted at all. This is not the way that legislation should be made. And like I say, even if you want prong collars banned, you should want it banned on the balance of the weight of evidence. If you think that it should be done, then it will, given a proper investigation. And that's all that we're asking actually happen. So like I say, what to do, how to contact the people, that's all going to be in the description below. But please, in your submission, and they have to check all your submissions. Like there isn't a single one that won't have to be read. Please be as professional as you can, and don't plead the case for the prong collar. Plead the case for actual legislative best practice being implemented. That's it from me. Good luck.